you can protect others from getting sick from COVID-19. Here's what you do. Stay at home unless you need food, medicine, or medical care. Avoid large crowds, and if you have to go out, stay at least 6 feet away from other people. Don't forget to wear a cloth face covering so you don't spread germs when you talk, sneeze, or cough. Cloth coverings should not, however, be used on children under 2. For more information, call 206-477-3977. That's 206-477-3977.
Turn up your radio wherever you at. We about to bring it.
Street Beat with Tony B.
Tony B will give you a chance to tackle local, national, and international issues that affect your community.
Street Beat. Street Beat. Tony.
Sunday nights from 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. It's K-Fox Night Beat with DJ Nastiness.
Bringing back the memories.
Bringing back the memories.
Bringing Seattle's hottest music.
Bringing Seattle's hottest music. Rainier Avenue Radio World.
The Urban League of Metropolitan Seattle, empowering communities and changing lives. The Urban League has been there to serve when our community is at its lowest. It's never mattered what the crisis was. The systemic oppression remains constant for those most vulnerable. Here at the Urban League of Metropolitan Seattle, we'll be temporarily adjusting our hours of operation and available services. If you are in need of resources, we recommend that you give us a call at 206-461-3792. To make an appointment, press 0 and speak with the receptionist. Walk-in hours will be from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. Monday through Friday. And hey, we'll gladly work with you via phone as best as we can if you're exhibiting any signs of illness to assist you with information to save your home, find you a place to sleep, or connect you to job opportunities. The Urban League of Metropolitan Seattle. That's 206-461-3792.
Rainier Avenue Radio.world is your 24/7 digital media hub. Tune in at Rainier Avenue Radio.world. Also find us on Facebook, Twitter, and TuneIn apps.
Welcome. Welcome to Rainier Avenue Radio.world. So let's see. All right, D-Money, I'm just going to trust you because I can't hear myself. All right. I want to make sure I'm able to hear the guests when they get on. All right. Welcome to this week's edition of the impacts of the coronavirus on South Seattle and surrounding communities. It's me, Tony B. And this is the, almost the 1-year anniversary of the first impacts of the coronavirus on South Seattle and surrounding communities show that we did. We started on March 13th of last year. And we didn't know what we were facing. Everything was shut down. And here we are 1 year later. And I think that we see some light at the end of the tunnel. Don't know for sure, just as though we didn't know exactly what we were facing before. There are still a lot of unknowns in regards to this pandemic. And in the midst of this pandemic, there was a racial reckoning. Some might say a racial awakening. Some folks might call it civil unrest, civil upheaval. But there was definitely a broader awareness of systemic oppression and how that impacts our daily lives and how it impacts the safety nets that were supposed to be in place, how it impacted pretty much everything, just like the pandemic did. I have some wonderful guests joining me. Today, we're going to be talking about folks and with folks who've received grant funding for the pandemic, what they do, how this has impacted what they do, and how the grant money's helped out. Grant money comes from the Seattle Foundation. The Seattle Foundation is a community foundation. It works to advance racial equity and shared prosperity. And they've been doing this since 1946. Over $1 billion in assets. On March 9th of last year, they launched the COVID-19 Response Fund to pool resources and support those disproportionately impacted by the pandemic. According to the Seattle Foundation, the fund was designed to support most vulnerable workers, families, and residents, fund community-based nonprofits on the front lines who are trusted in their communities, to center racial and economic equity, remain flexible, adaptive, and responsive. That's a big one. That was definitely necessary. And identify places where philanthropy can add value, where there are gaps in public funding. And I got to tell you, initially when I heard about this, to my knowledge, it was talking about an area around South Lake. And I was skeptical that this would be something that was going to be at that point beneficial to communities who were going to be suffering the most. And one of the results of this is that, the folks at Amazon were going to benefit because things would be ordered online. I'm excited to say that what you just heard me read about this response fund has come to fruition. And just recently, $9.9 million was given away to, I think, 239 different organizations to support their efforts in holding community together, in building community, in supporting communities. So we're going to take this whole show, this whole 2 hours, and we're going to talk about these organizations that were awarded grants. Joining me a little bit later in the program will be Dominique Davis. He's from Community Passages. Also joining me will be Naomi Mulituapele. And she'll be here to talk about an organization called Education with Purpose Foundation for Pacific Islanders. Mike Jones is the Assistant Director of Glover EmpowerMentoring. Jim will be here as well. And coming up right now is Ginger Kwan, who's with Open Doors for Multicultural Families. Welcome, Ginger, to the program.
Hey, can you hear me?
You got a round of applause. All right.
Well, that sounds great.
Ginger is yes, and I can hear you. Ginger is the Executive Director for Open Doors for Multicultural Families, which is a nonprofit organization, grassroots family support organization, whose mission is to ensure that multicultural families who have loved ones with developmental, intellectual disabilities have equal access to information, resources, and services. And the work that you do, Ginger, there may be no important time than when there is a crisis.
I agree with you. Absolutely. Yeah.
To make sure, again, when we're talking about equity, that's why folks need advocacy. That's why folks need people like you to do what you're doing. So again, the organization is called Open Doors for Multicultural Families. Ginger, welcome to the program. Why don't we start off by getting a little bit of background on, and then I want to talk about you just for a little bit as well. But for anyone who may be unaware, Open Doors for Multicultural Families. I gave a brief sentence or so about what it is. Why don't you tell us about Open Doors for Multicultural Families, how it got started, how long you've been in existence?
Sure. Thank you so much for giving us this opportunity to be here to share with you and also your audience and who we are. Open Doors for Multicultural Families was founded in June 2009 by a group of diverse parents and professionals and also community members who care about people with developmental disabilities who come from linguistically and culturally diverse backgrounds. And actually, it was born at my home, right at my kitchen table. And really fast forward after 10 years, more than 10 years work, today we have grown into 47 full-time staff and some part-time staff who speak over 27 different languages. And our board, our staff are also, our leaderships reflect the community who we serve, and we serve the whole King County. And we also have some programs are across the state, on the statewide level to other states as well.
Okay, I just want to back up for a second here, because this is such a wonderful example of how an individual can make a difference. And you said this started at your kitchen table.
Yes, exactly.
And has now grown into the 47 different folks.
Yep.
Multiple languages. Well, that is an incredible story. And so let's tell us about what your work is centered on at Open Doors for Multicultural Families.
Yeah, we provide quality culturally and linguistically responsive services for individuals who have developmental or intellectual disabilities. And of course, their family support systems from the Black, Indigenous, people of color communities, the BIPOC communities. And that has been our focus. The population we serve tend to have the dual identity, which is cultural identity or ethnicity identity and the disability identity. And our programs and services is cross lifespan. What that meant is that we have programs for early learning when the parents who have young children newly diagnosed with disabilities. We started to serve parents and help the mothers and fathers to learn the child development, and up to the youth programs. When they go into the school, they started to learn how to develop social emotional development and also cultural identity to embrace their own identity with disabilities and also where they come from in their culture. And also we have a parent education programs to support parents to learn about special education or any kind of related issue regarding to the disabilities. And we also provide a service to support adults with disabilities and also their senior caregivers. And whatever we do is really based on this cultural brokering strategy, which means is that we will hire people who come from a community and share similar culture and speak the language to assist our focus population so they are able to navigate a system which is very often inequitable to them or has some biases to their needs, and also connect these families, individuals with the resources, information, so they can get the service that they needed. And what we do is very client-centered, family centers. So that means everybody who come to Open Doors individually, we will provide a one-on-one support to begin with to understand what their needs are. If, for example, parents come to us and their children has issues in school with the special education, then our staff can sit down with them, speak in their language, and they can explain it to them what services are available in special education, and also invite the parents come together to learn as a group and support each other. And so our programs and services are designed by the people and also for the people we serve.
Wow, that must be an incredibly large table in your kitchen. That's a lot to
It has grown so big. I couldn't imagine that either, but we do see that because the needs are great and so many families need the services and so many youth, they need to learn how to value themselves and to see themselves are capable. And they can contribute back to the society as long as we give them support they needed and assist them to get education they deserved. Then they can do the work, they can project it to their life, they can go to work, and they can go to college is possible as well. And those are all possibilities there. But too often our youth, we served were not considered as capable. So because of the discrimination, or very often they are bullied in school, so they lost the confidence. And our program are designed to do that. And we do see many youth who have went through our program when they have gone through our program, they become self-confident and they are able to advocate for themselves. And many of them, they did go to college, and many of them also get jobs as well, including my son, who is 25 years old, who has autism. Prior to the COVID-19, he's working 2 jobs, regardless of his disability. And so everybody can have a meaningful life and can belong to to the society that we all deserved, and also we are longing to have the connections and good relationship with each other. And so our program really, it's designed to ensure that they can thrive in in the society of their own design, and also with the support system they needed.
You're listening to Rainier Avenue Radio World. My guest is Ginger Kwan, Executive Director for Open Doors for Multicultural Families. We are essentially talking about entities, agencies, organizations who have provided that safety net. When the pandemic happened, obviously there was a need for your work before the pandemic happened. And you mentioned in 2009, you kind of talked about this a little bit, but I want you to just be more specific about it. Why was there an emphasis on multiculturalism and linguistics?
You know what? If we talk about equity, that means we want to help those, we want to bring those who are usually not served, they were not given the support system to begin with. So basically, we are not on the same playing field, because people who are low income or people who share different languages, and very often they don't know the system, and quite often they lack of the opportunity, access to the services, and also their families are on the same boat as well. So for this population, once their voices were not heard, then the system likely are not going to design some services that will meet their needs. And so for that purpose, we came together. Myself, I'm an immigrant. I come from Taiwan. I grew up in Taiwan, came to the US in 1989. And throughout the past, before I formed Open Doors for Multicultural Families, there are many families I had the privilege and honor to work with. And I have learned so much from these parents, and really see the disparity and also the gap in our diverse community, who have parents, families raise a child with disabilities, because sometimes there are cultural taboos in the certain ethnic community, and because people don't value people with disabilities. So as a result, in many ethnic community, even though there are services or organizations designed to meet the immigrant or refugees' needs, however, they don't talk about disabilities. And same thing for the mainstream, there are a lot of services for people with disabilities. However, when I'm going to talk to them, they don't know about the differences or the challenges our refugee immigrants or people of color and their challenges are. So we have this unique population who I often call it as a double jeopardy population. And so we got to have, to fulfill their needs, we got to have an organization that is dedicated to them, for them, and listen to them. And that's what we did. And believe it or not, 2 years ago, we already reached more than 1,400 families. And that's individual families we have served 2 years ago.
And, I'm going to ask you if you wouldn't mind tilting your camera down, because we're only seeing like 3/4 of you. Of course, it's your choice.
Oh, really? Okay. Yeah. Sorry about that. Is that better?
There we go. That's better. There we go. Awesome. Excuse me. Again, my guest is Ginger Kwan, Executive Director of Open Doors for Multicultural Families. And so there's so many questions I want to ask you, and so little time. When you began to embark on this process that you started at your kitchen table, what were some of the main challenges and obstacles that you were facing as you were preparing to do something for an underserved community, a marginalized community, and again, a community that, again, as you call it, was in double jeopardy when it came to crisis in events like this?
Well, you ask a very good question here, Tony. And I think my journey, or Open Doors journey, is not different than many BIPOC community organizations, because we come from the places that we really don't know much about the system, and we don't know how the system was working and how the funding was being distributed and who can get money and how do you get money. And even myself at the beginning, I had to write grant, but writing grants is not my forte, and it was not by design. So the major issue, what we see is the systems too often do not believe in people of color or people who speak language with accent, speak English with accent, or who have a limited English proficiency. So the discrimination comes in, and based on your appearance, you are judged, or based on your life experience, you are judged. And so with that was a huge barriers. And we as people of color, we always have to work 2 or 3 times double hard to prove, we have to prove ourselves to others at least 2 to 3 times harder. And so we always started with getting a small dollar amount, and we have to do huge amount of work. And those are definitely a lot of challenges in terms of, our own capacity, and expect a person to do multiple jobs that should be done by multiple people. So for the many years at the beginning, I had to do like 5 people's job, very likely, in many ways. Anyway, there are a lot of challenges, but we survive. We not only survive, we thrive, and we are resilient because our community are very resilient, and we can do the work with little resources, and we can thrive together. The main thing is that we care about the people who we serve, because we come from the community we are impacted. And that was the energy that we got together with many of the supporter, including my wonderful staff. We come together to get the work done. Yeah.
That story that you just shared, it can probably one that's unilateral for a lot of organizations. Thank you. You ever heard the story about rock soup?
Nope. You can tell me.
It just what you were saying. There was no food, and I forgot what it was, but it was a group of animals, and they said, "Okay, let's make rock soup." So rock soup, that's not going to be tasty, and so they boiled the water and put a rock in it, and then a rabbit came by and said, "I have some carrots," and put the carrots in the soup, and then somebody else came by and then put something else in the soup, and then somebody else came by, and before they knew it, they had this huge stew. And you talk about
I remember that now.
taking what you have and working with it. Yeah. And so now, Ginger, I want to fast forward to basically about the same time last year, when everything shut down. We went into isolation. We knew that there was a contagion out there that was killing people.
Mm-hmm.
How did that affect your business? What were you doing at that time? How were you planning to adjust? What was going through your mind when you had people out there who had critical needs? You weren't supposed to be in contact with folks, and everything had changed. And probably, again, like I said, more than any other time, these folks were in need of you and your services. Where were you at? Take us back there.
Thank you so much for asking this. As soon as we realize the situation has gone bad and likely the situation will continue, as an organization, first of all, is that we need to understand the needs of our community. And at the same time, we have to take care of ourselves, because when we don't take care of ourselves, we cannot serve others, right? I mean, that's just basic principle we have to operate. And we know the challenges our staff is going to have. So we utilize and look at our values of families. Open Doors for Multicultural Families operate based on our values. And many values, including like equity, inclusion, families, and also self-care is one of them. So the self-care plays into places. First of all, take care of our staff. and also take care of the families. So we started with a family assessment, try to understand what they are, how they are handling this challenging situation. And quickly, the managers, we come together to discuss how do we set up a system to support their needs. So we don't immediately to respond, but instead we create a system to assess their needs, to take care of the families when they call us, and individually let us know what they need. So we collect many data and also collect their needs. So as a result of those information, we can easily let the funders know. And so we communicate with our funders, either our current funders or like a Seattle Foundation. And many funders, they responded to our calling for their support. And so we are able to get funding that comes in to serve many families who have come to us to ask for help. Even though what we got is still not enough, but at least we were able to serve many of them. And I do have the data I can share with you if that's what you like me to share right now, or maybe later on. And it's incredible information I can share with you, what we have done.
Yeah, why don't you share that Why don't you share that now?
Sure. And this is a fast forward to the outcome, right? The outcome wise, in last year, in 2020, we were able to serve in total of 1908 households. And the funding we received for rental assistance, for food, some flexible funds, total is $765,415. Wow. And break it down into many different areas. For example, we help the family to get their groceries for 361 families. And on average, every families who can get up to $500. And then we also purchased computers to support families. We spend $59,800 to purchase and support 120 families. And we also give the gift cards for some basic needs, so families can use the gift card to buy something they really need, and besides some of the criteria set by the county or set by other funders, let us know what needs to be done. And for that, we are able to help 615 families, and on average, the family received $350 the gift cards. And then we also give some cash as well, because some families we know they also need different kind of things. So we actually cut checks for them. So we were able to support 502 families and to give them the about $225. And the last but not the least is the rental assistance fund. We have received $197,300, and that allows us to serve 310 families. Even though the number sounds great, but Tony, I can tell you there are so much more needs need to be done. And we see so many barriers from the county and also other funders. They give a lot of restriction, and how they roll out of funding was really not equitable. And I think later on you might hear from some of your guest speakers who are my colleagues today. I'm so honored to be with them working together through the Racial Equity Coalition, which was funded by Seattle Foundation. In that way, we were able to utilize the funding from Seattle Foundation, which is unrestricted, which is the best. But however, the county rolled out the rental assistance program through this lottery system, and many of the families we serve were not able to receive those fundings. For example, less than 25 families were drawn out from the lottery system, and you can think about, in 2 years ago, we already served more than 1,400 families. How many can get services? How many need the services? And yet so little were served by the lottery system. So we are hoping the lottery system gonna change in some way. So those are achievements, but at the same time, there are some challenges, and there are more challenges I can share with you, or if others can share with you later on, that'll be great as well.
This is, I don't know what to tell you, Ginger, because we're almost out of time. And I'm just enjoying this conversation so much. But I got to get you to talk about this before we go. You talked about grants and getting grants. And grants are very specific in what they're looking for. And a lot of times it's not what you need to do to be successful, but you know what goes on in your community. You know what your community needs. A grant isn't going to say, well, here's some money for gift cards. A grant isn't
You are right.
here's some money for cash because the family just needs money. And right now we don't have time, to fit into your toolbox of what you think folks need. If the funds that you're talking about, that keyword you mean, unrestricted. As Rainier Avenue Radio, people weren't even aware as media when we had a need, when all the emergencies came up and folks wanted us to broadcast, and it was stretched our resources thin, and people were thinking, well, you guys don't need support and funding. Just quickly talk about that, the importance of saying, hey, look, unrestricted, you need your community. This is how we're going to bypass the red tape so that we can get this money to organizations to give it to people who need it now.
Yeah. And Tony, you are exactly right. And that's truly what we needed. And we are thankful for foundations like Seattle Foundation. And at Open Doors, we also have other foundations give us this kind of support. For example, Satterberg Foundation or Stolti Family Foundation. And these are great foundations. They listen to the community. And they trust us who do the work. And I think that is the process, what we so-called a participatory grant-making process. It's an easy way for the funders to understand the work we do by dialoguing with us, and we will be able to tell them our stories. We'll be able to show what are the things that are needed. And the funding, if that's flexible, that allow us to do whatever is needed, and it's not limited to say, okay, we can only use for rent, we can only use for food. No, we have so many things we need, right? For example, if a parent want to help their children with education, can they use the funding to buy some education software or buy something, or even a computer or laptop they don't have, right? We shouldn't be restricted people. I think the key is really, do people really trust people who need help, actually are resilient and knows best what they need and support themselves? And if I have more time, I'd definitely love to have a conversation with you. And thank you. Yeah. I have so much things I can tell you. I prepared, but unfortunately, we just don't have time. I know that.
I know. And it's been great talking to you. We're already over time, but if you can, for about 20, 30 seconds, any final words that you want to share with our listening audience right now?
I want people to know people of color are resilient and people of color are smart, and we know what we are doing, and trust the community organizations that are led by BIPOC community and served by BIPOC community to do the work they needed. Give us the resource we needed, and we can show you the best outcome. And because all what we wanted is the community who need it most, they will have the opportunity to get the resource they need to thrive. And so we can get through the pandemic safe, and everybody can get back to the job and get back to their feet, and they can continue to thrive.
Thank you so much, Ginger. We'll have to figure out a time to do this again, learn more about your organization, what you do, and hear about how things are going. There's just so much more that we had to talk about. I'm going to have to go to break. When I get back, I'll be talking with Mike Jones from Glover EmpowerMentoring.
This is Paul Pearson, host of Star Time. And when I'm not being reprimanded by traffic cops, I'm listening to Rainier Avenue Radio.world.
Dealing with COVID-19 is uncharted territory, and everyone has different challenges. People may feel anxious, down, or overwhelmed. For some, these feelings can lead to changes in sleep patterns, an increased use of alcohol or drugs, or withdrawing from the people around them. If you know someone who's having a hard time coping, you can help by reaching out to talk and listen. To learn more about how you can help someone in need, call the Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 800-273-TALK. Brought to you by the state of Washington.
Join Rainier Avenue Radio from 5 to midnight for Sunday evening sound sessions. Jazz from the cabinets from Big Poppy.
That's right. It's time once again for Jazz from the Cabinets with Big Poppy.
Sergio LaCour's Love Lines.
It's Sergio's Love Lines with Sergio LaCour. Go to the phone line. Tell her who we talking to.
Sage Prince and Just My Opinion.
This is Sage, and that's just about going to do it for the first half of Just My Opinion.
K-Fox Night Beat with Nasty Ness Rodriguez.
It's the beat of the Fox. K-Fox Night Beat, Nasty Ness.
You know what? You're going to listen from 5 to midnight. Just turn it on and don't stop. DJ Alibaba. The Underground Surround Sound Star Time with Paul Pearson.
Thanks for tuning in. My name is Paul Pearson.
Sunday evening sound
Star
sessions on Rainier Avenue Radio. Trust me, you'll be listening the entire time from 5 to mid Sunday evening. Your sound session on Rainier Avenue Radio.
Do you know what to do if you think you might have COVID-19? Or what to do if you know you've been exposed? Here's how you can help protect your community. Stay home if you're not feeling well. Even if you have mild symptoms. If you were in contact with someone who's sick, stay home while you watch for symptoms. Help may be available to get groceries and supplies. Get tested as soon as you can. Free testing may be available. Respond quickly when a contact tracer gets in touch. An interviewer will ask about people you've been in close contact with. You can follow these 3 steps to help find and stop the spread of infections. When everyone in your community does their part, businesses and schools can reopen safely. Find a testing location and learn more at coronavirus.wa.gov.
You are listening to Rainier Avenue Radio.world. Don't forget to log on www.rainieravenue.world.
Welcome back to Rainier Avenue Radio.world. It's me, Tony B. This is our special broadcast of the impacts of the coronavirus on South Seattle and surrounding communities. Every guest on the show this afternoon has filled in the gaps that were exposed when the pandemic hit, and the systemic oppression and injustice became even more visible. It was there all the time, and these groups have filled in. Seattle Foundation back in March launched what they called the COVID-19 Response Fund. And again, I'll tell you straight up, I was skeptical because what I knew at that time, and I don't know if it changed after people called, but the money was initially, I think it was like $5 million that was given by someone. It was supposed to help businesses around South Lake Union. And I'm thinking to myself, hey, wait a minute, there's a lot of communities that are going to need some of this funding, way more than that. Very quickly, and I'm certainly not saying I had anything to do with it. I'm sure there were a lot of people, but it was one of the things that came up. Well, they pivoted. The COVID-19 Response Fund eventually was launched with the idea that the fund was designed to support the most vulnerable workers, families, and residents, rather than just a particular community. To fund community-based nonprofits that are on the front lines and who are trusted in their communities. If you just listen to our conversation with Ginger, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. Something I think is incredibly important, to remain flexible, adaptive, and responsive, which during a crisis you have to have. And to center racial and economic equity at all of this. This recently gave away $9.9 million to 239 community organizations. 73% of those grants, 471, and 74% of dollars, 22 million. Wow, 22 million up to 60 million, I think. $22 million. I got to get these figures straight. But 22 million of those dollars have gone to organizations led by and deeply rooted in BIPOC communities. $22 million. And a lot of the other money that went to grants benefited what we call BIPOC communities. I don't really like BIPOC. I think it narrows it down to something that doesn't truly give identity to people. We're more than people of color. But anyway, I'll say that because I know that, for some people, that $10 word seems to make sense because it's a catch-all. But the big point that I'm making is that communities that were rallying to support their community, Seattle Foundation stepped in and said, look, we're going to give you unrestricted funds so that you can do what you need to do. And they did this again by putting together a 22 member panel of community leaders with grassroots knowledge about the funding needs of their communities. I'd like to welcome to the program right now, Mr. Michael Jones. Michael. All right, you see that round of applause for you, bro?
Appreciate it.
Well, we appreciate you and the work that you do in communities. We know that this work did not start on March 13th of last year, but we know that was a critical time. So first things, man, welcome to the program, Michael. Glover EmpowerMentoring. Let's start with that, and then I'll find out a little bit about yourself. Glover EmpowerMentoring. What is Glover EmpowerMentoring?
Oh, man. So, I mean, it's in the name. Our executive director and co-founder, Mr. Kendrick Glover, lended us his name. I always say he puts the G in Jim. And we are really a mentoring organization that is all about not only the empowerment of the youth that we work with, but the volunteers and the staff that are on with us. We try to make sure that we incorporate our 3 I's: to inform, to interact, and to inspire. And we try to run with that here in the South King County community. So we're centrally located right here in Kent.
Hit me with that one more again, so we can know the 3 I's, so we can know them like y'all know them. The 3 I's. What are they?
The 3 I's: to inform, to interact, and to inspire.
All right. Okay. Keep going. I just had to implant that.
No problem. But really, we just we look for unique individuals who, everybody has their own story. Everybody brings something to the table, and we try to push that to be a strength for all of us. I always say, like, we don't have a specific type of mentor. We're not looking for a type of person because everybody's story connects with somebody else. And I think that's what's really unique about our process, because we allow the youth to come. When the youth come to us, they meet all of us, and they kind of form their own bond with the people that we have, and they kind of choose who they want to be around. If they want to do more of a one-on-one setting, they choose who they link with, who they vibe with, and I think that's what allows us to be so unique. And I think it allows our young people to know, like, you're building a community, you're building a support system. And it's not, we paired you with somebody because we thought it was what you needed. It was, you paired yourself because you knew what you needed. And that's where we start with that empowerment.
That is in my opinion, fantastic mentoring concept. Congratulations to y'all. How long has the organization been in existence, and what led to the founding of this organization?
So Glover EmpowerMentoring was started in 2014 officially. Kendrick Glover was a school counselor at Kent Meridian High School, and he wanted to do work with young men of color. His personal story is a powerful one, and I think it's another time for him to share. So I won't really dive into it, but in the work that he was doing in the school, there was a lot of red tape, and he wanted to get away from, serving in a capacity that somebody else thought these young people needed, and really allowing them to speak for what they needed for themselves. And at the time, a good friend of his, Sylvester Kraft, really jumped on board, and they founded GEM together back in June of 2014, June 11th to be exact. And we've really been rocking and rolling ever since. It was started out completely volunteer based, and on Wednesday nights we would have what we call community mentoring, and whether it was one young person or 30, a steady group of men would come and be involved. And we were up at the Kent Phoenix Academy, or the Kent Parks Community Center, many years, and it just kind of blossomed. There was an opportunity for funding as the Best Starts for Kids grants got started, and allowed us to hire people, and we've just been trying to grow from there.
And Mike, tell me a little bit about your background and why the work that you do and the passion that you have for this work is important to you.
Oh man, so to me, this is it's not even work. It really is. This is a personal responsibility. I think all of us have a story, and it is our duty to give back. I grew up and down I-5. So I started life in South Seattle, went to elementary school in Federal Way, went to high school in Tacoma, and my family has always been very involved in my life, and I understood what mentorship was because it was a building block of my life. And so when I look at it and how important it is to us understanding not only where we come from, but where we're going, I make sure that I pour back into the young people that are around me, because they will eventually pour into the lives of my own children. And so if I want to make sure that that ground is fertile, I better give what I have so that they have it to give back and to multiply in the lives of my own children. And I just think that's how it moves. I think that's the way that life was intended. Nothing we do as human beings, nothing we learned on our own. We are a social species. So whether we learned it because somebody taught it to us intentionally or we picked it up by what we saw, everything is a learned behavior. So I make sure that I'm trying to show and teach things that are useful than teaching my own faults and negatives.
Michael, I got to say, man, one of the reasons that I started this radio station was because often when you heard about South Seattle, you heard about negative things happening in the community. You heard about shootings. And our thing was to say, okay, you know what? There's incredible, amazing people in our community that do incredible, amazing things every single day, man. And I can't tell you, man, how much joy it's bringing me right now to be talking to you folks and being able to share the work that you do, in particular when there was a crisis. And when folks needed you the most, and in addition to that, when the rails came off,
right.
Of what people thought were safeguards. Well, let's start here. Who do you serve? Who's your clientele?
Oh man, so we work with, as Mr. Glover says all the time, he has a hard time telling kids no. So anybody who brings anything to us, we're going to try to serve them. But our personal experience, because we are, predominantly Black men and women, that's who we serve. But we also serve, the Latino community. Kent is one of the most diverse cities, not only in the country, but especially in the state, because there are over 100 languages spoken in this city. We get a lot of those different populations that tend to, make roots here. And so we serve any and everybody. Our predominant age ranges from those who are 12 all the way up to 24. We have some different programs that work specifically in elementary schools, but we are for the youth and young adults. We always have been, and we try to grab and create opportunities and programming around anything that young people need. So whether it's understanding jobs or re-engagement with school, creating healthy relationships with adults, and re-engaging with families, we try to find a way to do it all.
You really just answered this question, because I was going to ask you what does success look like for you when someone comes in, or you go out and you get someone and you start to engage. You kind of talked about that a little bit, but if you want to expand on that, and it's obviously an individual thing.
And I think that's the only way to truly define success. And we allow our young people to determine what success is for themselves. We've all lived our lives a little bit, and we have some experience and some wisdom. But if you have a goal, we're going to make sure that you understand all the steps that it takes to get those goals accomplished. We're not just going to put the big goal up there. We're going to put those stepping stones to get there so that you can be sure that this is really where you want to go. And if you need to pivot, we're right here for you. We can we get right back to the drawing board and we work again. But success is a self-determined thing within the walls of Glover EmpowerMentoring.
You're listening to Rainier Avenue Radio .world. It's me, Tony B. This is our special impacts of the coronavirus on South Seattle and surrounding communities show that we do every week, and we've done every week, Mike. We've done this since March 13th of last year. So it's almost a year when this all started. Take us back for you when this happened, because I remember exactly what was going on at that time when it got shut down. And take us back to where you were with Jim, the clients you serve. What was going on? What were you thinking a year ago?
Oh man, it was crazy. So I was in this very office. A colleague of mine and I were getting ready to go to I think Bryn Mawr Elementary to run some programming when we got the call that said everything's being shut down. We're not doing any more after school programming.
Wow. Which
really hit me because, I like being face to face. I like being in direct contact with the young people we serve. And we, it was a new contract for us, and we had just really started building those relationships. And it hurt because the first thing I thought of was, for kids, it feels like somebody else is leaving us. Because articulating that, regardless of what the situation is, at that age is difficult.
Wow. My guest again, Michael. So one of the things that happens at this point is the flow of money, the faucet cut off. And I did that happen for you as well? Let me start with that. I don't want to presume. At that point, what were you thinking in terms of being able to continue this program? You couldn't see people. You couldn't do what you normally did. And able to continue this program. What was the thought? What were you thinking? How was it going to go forward?
Well, for those particular school programs, we were working in the Renton School District, those did stop. Those cut immediately, and it was tough. And some of our other contracts, the move was, how do we pivot? We do diversion work out of Westfield South Center Mall. And it was like, if the mall shut down, what are we diverting? We do in-school programming. All right, do we shift to online? Does we provide social emotional learning through our Roots curriculum at two of the middle schools here in Kent, Meridian and Meeker Middle Schools. And for those students, we are always constantly talking about the impact of trauma. And now we were going through as the world a collective traumatic experience, and having to adjust that to being online, which a lot of the kids are still experiencing and still struggling with to this day, was tough because we like being face to face. We like to be in person. I think it's comforting, and to have that comfort stripped from the work was very tough.
And I do want to get to where we're at now, but I'm going to keep you back there for a second. How was this affecting your clients, your kids, your youth, their mental health, their physical health, their everything, their education? I'm sure, their home life, their socialization. How was this firsthand from you affecting the clients that you serve? What was going on?
One of the first things you notice, and we've seen it talked about a lot in these last 12 months, but the freedoms that we have as adults, our youth don't have. They can't, a lot of them don't drive. They can't pick up and go. They can't change their situation at their own behest. So when you sit in an unsafe mental or emotional environment, and you're being told you don't get to leave, and there's no reprieve because maybe the parents who aren't quite supportive also aren't leaving, what used to be your safe zone is no longer safe. There becomes no escape from living in your own head. And you're being told of the dangers of the coronavirus on the outside. Like my own children in my house, they hate coronavirus, and they'll tell you. I have a 6-year-old son, and he constantly, I can't wait till this is over. When is it over, Daddy? I hate the coronavirus. I wish it would go away. And we have, youth who are experiencing all the traumas that they were already experiencing and not having that relief of the young people that they were around who were kind of going through the same thing, or the adults who they had built relationships with to be comforting.
And all of the guests on my show were funded by the Seattle Foundation today. And again, I'm just straight up, Mike, when this came out, I was skeptical, because again, if you listen to Ginger, we know what's best in our community. And a lot of times these organizations say, well, this is how you have to put it together for us so that we can give you the money so that we can oversee how you do your work. And it was like, we don't need you to do that.
Right.
That's how I felt at the time.
Absolutely.
And so, I'm not tripping. I'm saying, hey, let's bring some of these groups on. Let's talk about the success this has been when you've given away $9.9 million just recently, and I think $60 million overall. How did that benefit? How was that?
Man, so we received about $100,000, and it was great because we could actually help the people that were directly affected by what was going on with COVID. So about in this last year, about 80,000 of that 100,000 that we had went directly to over 60 families. We helped over 155 different Kent residents with rental assistance, utilities, food assistance, and it was great to be able to do that. We also were able to partner with some of our other places here in the city of Kent. We partnered with the YMCA and delivered over 800 boxes of produce on a weekly basis from June to September. We partnered with Althas here in Kent and served over 1,570 meals to Kent School District students in a 4-week period, so they didn't have to keep eating the same old school lunch while they were at home. So we provided some different things, fried chicken, spaghetti, hush puppies, greens, just some different comforting things within the community that we were able to do. Even took a special family that does some work with us on a shopping spree at Westfield South Center Mall for the holiday season. And it was great to be able, as Glover always says, it's really a blessing to be a blessing. And I think that was great for us to have some unrestricted funding where we could say, this is how this family, these clients needed to be healed. They got to ask for it, and we didn't have to tell them no because it doesn't fit in the parameters. We could just say yes and be a blessing.
And Michael, man, we could just keep talking, and it always comes up where we're almost out of time. And I want to give you a chance here for final words. But again, you said the same thing that Ginger did. So let's start off by telling me again the importance of being able to see this unrestricted, because for people who are not in the business of writing grants, everything is detailed and lined up, and you got to meet exactly the requirements that you say you're going to meet, or you won't get the funding to make it happen. How important was the unrestricted portion of this for you? And we just heard you talk about those unanticipated challenges that you were able to meet with the needs of your community. And so I'm sorry I got to give you a short time to answer that question.
Nope, it's okay. So literally, we just to have funds unrestricted. Like you talked about, it's tough for somebody to tell you how to spend money. It's like getting your paycheck and your boss telling you how you have to spend it. What if I don't need that? And trying to find ways to make needs fit what is the expectation is very difficult. It's mind wrecking. And so to have funds that we were allowed to allow the community, to empower our community to say, this is what we need to get through what is going on right now. This is how we need to get through this pandemic. was truly a great opportunity for us.
And again, I got about a minute left because I wanted to give you an opportunity for final words, Michael, to talk about whatever you want to talk about.
There are so many great places doing work in this community. I'm glad that we're getting a chance to spotlight that. So just want to say thank you to you guys over at Rainier Avenue Radio. Thank you, Tony B. And please, for those of you who are taking the chance to listen, please find ways to tap in with some of these community organizations. It's easy to look at the big things going on in the news and have them tell you, but find the people in your community who are doing the work and find ways to give to those organizations as well.
Mike, it's been absolutely great having you on this program, man, and being able to share you along with your program and what you do, and again, give folks an opportunity to see what happens in our South Sound communities. I'm about to go to break, but man, we're having a fish fry to raise funds down here tomorrow.
Hey, fish and fry, we good.
I believe it's catfish and a couple of sides, and that'll be going on here tomorrow from 1 to 5. We give away free food every Saturday from 11 to 3. We don't ask people questions. We just say, come get some food.
All right.
So I'm just bringing that up to you, man, in case you decide, you know what, I'm gonna go down and get some fish down there. Radio.
Let our people know as well. Absolutely.
And then also we start our high school football broadcast again. We'll be broadcasting East Side Catholic versus Rainier Beach tonight. Then we've got Garfield and Seattle Prep tomorrow, and Nathan Hale and Franklin tomorrow night. So that was my way of sharing with you, but at the same time giving a plug to all of our listeners out here.
Absolutely. We appreciate it.
Again, Mike, thanks for what you're doing. This is Tony B. You're listening to Rainier Avenue Radio.world. This is our special broadcast of the impacts of the coronavirus on South Seattle and surrounding communities. Coming up next from the Education with Purpose Foundation for Pacific Islanders, Naomi Motuoapele will be joining me. Tagaleo, actually. And Naomi Motuoapele Tagaleo will be joining us right here on Rainier Avenue Radio. Stick around.
This is Paul Pearson, host of Star Time. And when I'm not busy tearing the roof off the suckers, I'm listening to Rainier Avenue Radio.world.
Rainier Avenue Radio presents the Metro League Student Athlete of the Week. This week, Rainier Avenue Radio honors Quentin Jordan, a senior at Garfield, for his outstanding performance on offense and defense.
There's Jordan, makes a stutter step inside, breaks a tackle. He's off and running. He's going to take it all the way. He's going to take it all the way on the sideline. Oh, my goodness, 65 yards.
Congratulations to Garfield High School senior Quentin Jordan, this week's Rainier Avenue Radio Metro League Athlete of the Week.
Rainier Avenue Radio presents All Music, All Day Saturday. Music, all day Saturday.
This is Edwin Bailey, Bulldog Blue.
Jazz from the Cabinets.
That's right. It's time once again for Jazz from the Cabinets with Big Poppy.
Start Time.
Thanks for tuning in. My name is Paul Pearson. This is Start Time.
Saturdays, all music, all day. Reggae Hour, K-Fox Night.
Looking for the perfect beat? Yeah, it's the beat of the Fox.
Fresh Juice with D-Money in there.
Myself, D-Money.
Pint Size Patron.
Taylor Hart.
This is Spencia, the Northwest Rap Gang.
DJ Medina. Chad Cheddar. Northwest Rap Gang.
Sergio LaCour's Love Line.
It's Sergio's Love Lines with Sergio LaCour. Go to the phone line. Tell them who we talking.
Sea Monster Radio. Mo Jams. It's your jam.
We're live. Welcome to Mo Jam Mondays. This is KZ of KZ Music Media. Caller Goddess for Mo Jam Mondays.
Just my opinion. God is inspiration all day and all night. Saturdays on Rainier Avenue Radio.world.
You probably have questions about COVID vaccines. Here are some answers about how they're being made.
How are COVID vaccines being produced faster?
Usually, vaccine testing and production are separate steps. But because of the pandemic, vaccines are being developed on parallel tracks. So both steps are happening just at the same time.
How are the vaccines being tested?
Right now, several different COVID vaccines are in testing. Each go through multiple clinical trials with up to thousands of volunteers.
How do vaccines get approved?
Not all COVID vaccine versions will make it to the final stages of testing and approval. Produced vaccines that do not pass clinical trials will be destroyed. But for those that do pass, a team of medical experts will examine test results and possible side effects. If the vaccine is effective and safe, it gets approved and gets to you. Go to covidvaccinewa.org to learn more. A message from the state of Washington.
You're listening to Rainier Avenue Radio.world.
Welcome back. You're locked in on Rainier Avenue Radio.world. This is our special broadcast that we do every Friday on the impacts of the coronavirus on South Seattle and surrounding communities. If you're just joining in, you missed a wonderful conversation from Ginger Kwan, the Executive Director of Open Doors for Multicultural Families. You just missed a phenomenal conversation with Mike Jones from Glover EmpowerMentoring. And we are about to embark on another. If you have any skin in the game in Seattle, you know when I say who this is, who I'm going to be talking to, the Executive Director for Education with Purpose Foundation for Pacific Islanders, Naomi Motuapele Tagaleo. And Naomi, I'm sorry if I tore the name up. I try to get it right. Welcome, Naomi.
I want to give you a shout out for trying my name. I apologize.
No apology necessary. Thank you for the work that you do.
I appreciate you. Again, it's great to be here. Thank you so much for reaching out. I am colleagues with Ginger and Kendrick Glover and Dom, Coach Dom. He'll be coming up next. And we are part of a coalition working together, just doing what we can. But yes, just for the viewers, for your viewers and listeners, I'm Naomi Multicultural Families.
Multicultural Tagaloo.
Yeah, I gave them a hard time with that jersey and playing in the WNBA, and so my married last name Tangaleo is a little shorter, so I'm hoping that's kind of alleviated a little bit.
Well, Naomi, I mentioned to folks, if you had any skin in the game in Seattle, we know who you are, and your list of achievements and accomplishments, absolutely incredible. Always have been a leader in this community. You mentioned it before, high school and going on to Stanford, and then playing in the WNBA. So congratulations to you on those accomplishments, and then I'm sure for you. All of those things are just stepping stones for you being able to come back here and invest yourself in your community.
Yes. And that's the reason why I started the Education with Purpose Foundation. It was a path for me to continue to play in the WNBA. But soon after my father, Reverend Evangelist Tuale Mulitau passed, I really felt the calling for me to do something beyond just playing. It was great to travel the world and see lots of different cultures and things of that nature. I really felt that it was an opportunity for me to come back to my community here. I went to Chief Sealth High School in West Seattle. My brother and I were born here in Seattle. And then I realized that it was something for me to be able to come back and share my, roadmap for the Pacific Islander students and who are going to come behind me, and so I thought that was very important to do. And we have been an organization since 2011, just doing after-school programs at the schools. At Chief Sealth, we've done after-school programs at Federal Way, as far as down Federal Way, and Todd Beamer. And I heard you mentioning, asking, I don't know if I should go into that yet, but we were at Kent Meridian this year by March 11th, the last day of school. Running our after-school programs called the Scholars with Purpose after-school programs.
Mm-hmm. and you can go into whatever you want to. This is your time.
Okay. Well, thank you. I was talking to my husband. I was like, you know what, babe? I've done lots of interviews. I talk with a lot of people. I'm like, I don't want to keep saying the thing over and over, right? So I thought, let me use this moment with Brother Tony to just talk about what has this pandemic has allowed us to do, what it made us do. So, okay, so we are the Education with Purpose Foundation, right? But when they shut down the schools, after school programming was done. So we said, okay, well, we need to shift because our students are still here. They still, yes, we can't show them how to put together, or no, we can. Now we've learned, we can do it online, but we couldn't actually physically be there to show them how to navigate through the classes. But we had to help them, and their parents and the bills. So we literally just, I'm good at this, pivot. We pivoted. We said, okay, kids, we, keep that there. We want to tell you about how to navigate through the school systems, but now we got to go help your family and your parents and your grandparents navigate this pandemic, this, terrible virus. So that allowed right away in March, I got together, actually, if you go to our website, edwpf.org, you'll see that we put together a call to action with some of my good friends, including Jesse Sapolu, four-time NFL champion. I just reached out to my friends, close friends, to put a PSA out there to talk about how important it is to, be safe and social distanced, right away. So it allowed us to educate about this new virus. It was something that, of course, the world couldn't even fathom. And so that's what we've done. So it was odd because we're not really a housing organization, but hey, I'm the type that, again, whatever needs to be done, let's go. So we focused all on rental assistance. We focused on PPEs and giving them out, free PPEs out to our communities and just educating them. And so I felt that it was so important. And so what COVID did, it allowed us to not only shed light on who we are as an organization, but I think that what was happening is at the time, not a lot of people were really addressing the academic piece of what's happening with our students. And so when COVID hit and we were able to give out over $150,000 in rental assistance, I think that's when people started recognizing us more. The community started really hearing us. And so that was a blessing in disguise, in that not only were we trying to help, because honestly, Tony, I think not allowing children to have quality education and not really holding their hand through the process of those classrooms and those schools, that's a virus. Sorry, I get emotional when I talk.
That's okay. That's okay.
That's what's causing our children to lose sight of what's important. That's what's causing our communities to not thrive as much as they can. So I'm hoping that as we get through this pandemic, that we are remembering that education is very important and it's a tool that we can teach our children and our communities to use in order to fight all things racially unjust. Sorry.
No, Naomi, perfectly fine. I so much appreciate your commentary and your authenticity, and I can tell you that there are folks out there who overstand where you're coming from. And as a radio station, I'll use the hand quotes thing. As a radio station, we knew that our community knew that we're also a social service organization. We don't just, that when you take that on. And so I say that to say, in addition to that, one of the things that folks found out later, which us in our communities, we already knew going in, but the Pacific Islander community, Native Hawaiian community was hit hard.
Because it's our culture. I mean, we live in multi-generational homes, and we go to church. We gather. We think it's a very important piece of our culture, and so yes, just dealing with that and having to explain to the young children, why they can't go see grandma. Why aren't we being able to go to church and praise the Lord and sing and shout? And that was definitely something that we as an organization have been focusing on, because, you can't just pull out the Band-Aid. You got to get in there and see where the pain and where the hurt and where the problems are, and become a part of the solution. And I heard from our other interviewees today about the importance of explaining to people who are, yes, they're funding us, but we also have to explain to them that not only are we getting hurt, we are feeling the problems, we know what to do to fix it. So yes, we appreciate the funding that you give to us, but also allow us to share with you what we can do. And I'm a results person, playing basketball, my history in sports. Let me show you. We've got to show them. And that's another great thing that has come out of this horrific pandemic, is that I feel that it's giving us an opportunity to tell the funders who are mostly not people of color, to say, hey, you know what, we can help be a part of the solution. We live in our communities. They listen to us. We talk to them. They trust us. So that's been a great, thing. I'm sorry, I kind of segued into that discussion, but yeah, those unrestricted funds are huge. I'm hoping that it continues to linger into the type of funding so we can show them. But again, I talked, to all of my colleagues in the Racial Equity Coalition that Ginger had mentioned. We talk consistently about results. We have to show them that they can trust us and that we can do a lot with a little. So.
And you are right. If I sound like I'm disagreeing with you, I'm not. We do have to show, and I know you'll understand when I'm saying this, and I've said it before, because I was skeptical. It was like I don't want to have to explain to you why money you raise for this pandemic should be given to us for us to do what we need to do in our community. And I know it wasn't just me, but so I raised the fuss. About that, and I did talk, and that's why I'm doing this again today, because from my perspective, to be able to see all of these organizations like your organizations who were funded, and it happened fairly quickly, and the groups that came together. And I'm not going to say anything about anybody else bad, but Seattle Foundation came through for a number of organizations. Give me your perspective on that, because again, you brought up the concept of unrestricted funds, and I'm trying to give credit where credit is due, because I ask questions at the beginning.
Definitely, and I'm the same way in that if I don't understand, or if there's something that's very important, I have to speak on it, because we're advocates. We're talking for a lot of vulnerable people in our communities. And so yes, Seattle Foundation and the United Way of King County, they have they've done their part in trying to shift that needle. And what we want to do too, and I'm telling you, and it's not easy. Tony, it's not easy. I hear it on the news all the time, that Zoom fatigue. I don't know how many meetings I've had, but I have been in front of, and I've met with all, the King County council members, it wasn't face to face, but they know me, they know my name, and we are knocking and we are talking and so that's another great thing about this too, because before COVID, none of us couldn't go to like half of these meetings. You had to get in the car, drive over to Seattle, drive out to wherever, Bellevue, or all these locations. But now we are in front of these, these council members, these decision makers. And so, yeah, I definitely get your, that feeling of the skepticism, because historically what has been happening has not been working. So we have been doing our best to just continue to go to these, council meetings and speak and send emails and make phone calls, And again, like I said, our goal is just to and then the pandemic, it's like our sixth man. You know what I'm saying? It's our sixth man. Says, while we're on the court, 5 of us are playing. The pandemic is saying, give them a shot, get them in the game. Yeah. They're going to score. The people are going to cheer for them. We come to play for the players. I mean, the crowd. That's just the analogy that just came to mind. That. So yes, there's skepticism, but at the same time, we've got to use what we can. We've got to keep the pedal to the metal, and we've got to use this reality for our good, and to just not think about the bitterness of the problems that have happened back. We've got to push forward and say, hey, you know what? God is a forgiving God. We are a loving people, a community. And so let's all come together. And I love your rock soup story. Let's all come and fix some soup, and not just have one person feed. Let's all of us come in, and the more we can do just a little at a time. We can move mountains. So that's my hope. And that's what keeps me optimistic.
Rock soup is delicious.
It's delicious.
My guest again, Naomi Mulatau-Pele Tagaleo, Executive Director for Education with Purpose Foundation for Pacific Islanders. Who do you serve? Who is your client base?
It's the Pacific Islander students. We are. I should say this. Although we are identified, labeled as Asian Pacific Islanders, I learned this from my father, and I'm first generation. I learned that we are very new. The Pacific Islander community is very new, compared to our Asian brothers and sisters. So I serve Pacific Islander students and families. I would identify us the ones coming straight from those small islands. Another way to identify us, my father, he came in the 1950s, right? Whereas the majority of the Asian community, they've been here since the 1800s. So that's a discussion that not many people in our community actually talk about. It wasn't until my father brought that to our attention, and he started fighting actually for the whole changing of, adding Pacific Islanders into the Asian pocket, in votings and different systems. And so, we service Pacific Islander students because, again, we have different sets of problems. Our kids are, dropping out and not graduating on time. And once they do get that high school diploma, you're in a warehouse, there's higher education. It was almost non-existent. And me, for example, being the first Samoan to graduate from Stanford University, right?
Can we get a round of applause again, please, Daniel, before she goes on? Let's give it that. Okay.
You know what I mean? So we service youth. We try to hold their hands through the school systems, and through after school programming. And we also see, my husband says you need to stop, shut down sometimes, but we started a summer youth program. And we not even at the schools. We did it in our apartment complex.
Wow.
Because when you open up our window at our apartment complex, there are 30 to 50 Black, brown, kids of color all over. So I said, babe, why try to track them down at the schools? Let's do it here. So we do 3rd grade to 6th grade in the summer, a math and reading program. And we're hoping, we did this 2 years. We wanted to pilot it. And the hope is that all apartment complexes can look like what we have out here, so that's our goal, to add that programming to our repertoire and what we do and our services, I should say.
You're listening to Rainier Avenue Radio World. It's me, your host, Tony B. This is our special broadcast of the impacts of the coronavirus on South Seattle and surrounding communities. When I, like everyone did who received or was a recipient of a grant, you got information and they said, hey, would you mind sharing with, the rest of you folks that, you got this grant from us. And I'm like, you know what? Forget that. I'm sharing everybody's information. Come on the air. And so again, Naomi, this is so awesome to be able to have you front and center and to share what you do in particular. And I've said this, but it says it's worth saying again, it bears saying again, when the safety net broke down, the people who were already in the community, they didn't break down, they rose up. And whether it meant putting a finger in the dike, right. or in some cases, just the whole body. Right. And it's so wonderful to hear. You talked about this a little bit, but whether it's the successes, whether it's the challenges, whatever, how I get down, I have open, honest, frank conversation. How has the past year been for your communities? Where are we at? Where are we at right now? Folks are starting to say, and we are, say, oh, you know what? We're in the tunnel, but I think there's light at the end of the tunnel. But that's not always everybody, tell us where your community is at, what you've been through, what the challenges were, what the successes are, where you're at right now.
Definitely. Okay. So as the Pacific Islander community, I would say that where we're at is we're trying to figure out this whole homeschooling situation. If we're going to have to go back to school, how are we going to continue to manage the lost income, so we're trying our best to be as resilient as possible. We have a lot of shuffling around of people who can stay at home and watch the children. And so we're really focusing and emphasizing, ways to combat those pieces that have really been impacted. It's again, income, a lot of us have lost, around the world have lost a lot of income, but they've also need to make sure that their kids are safe and they're having a good quality education. So our community is really working to try to, we have some organizations out there, Pacific Islander organizations, by the way, who are focusing on, health. We also did our part in helping getting vaccines for the elder Pacific Islander community members, whereas we have some other organizations out there who have a lot of manpower to help and go get those free food boxes and go and hand out those free PPEs. And ourselves, we are doing our best to continue to send out those checks to the landlords. We've helped over 100 Pacific Islander households with not only with that's just rental itself. We also gave out essential bills of $30,000 just to go and do what you need. Get some diapers, So to answer that, again, we're being resilient. We're trying our best to find what resources are out there. And personally, I'm looking to try to find more organizations that have the same focus, on the Pacific Islander needs to come together while I have the opportunity to, right? My focus is to get back on track to get these kids ready for school, but the whole point, the whole focus now is to just have that holistic, everybody get, pull up your bootstraps and do what you can. And so, and I believe that's what a lot of our cultures out there are doing too, specifically people of color. And so I think we're just doing our best to do the same thing, work together and be a part of the solution.
We only have a couple of minutes left, and I want to give you some time for final words. It's just been so great talk. But just really quickly, if you can, because I want to make sure that folks understand this when we talk about unrestricted funds and the difference that makes, because every one of you has said the same thing. And again, I've talked about it. Usually when you're a grant, it's a line item. You have to do this, you have to do this. And they've said, this is what we will accept. If it's out of the box,
it's barrier.
You're not going to get the grant.
Right?
So
it's barrier.
Unrestricted funds, what was the importance of that for you?
So, because that's the thing, without unrestricted funds, it's a barrier. It's a barrier to us in that there's so much information and data and unnecessary data that we have to collect, and we have to, I get it. It's your money. But at the same time, I'm really hoping that this pandemic will show the funders that, and the government, too, whether it's local, federal, private or public monies, is that, when you have unrestricted funding, yes, there's going to be that little that issue of, okay, are you spending it wisely? My advice is look at the results. If you have a lot of people that are coming to you and saying, oh, we didn't get any help, then that's a problem. But if you're seeing the community that's saying, gosh, please give this funding, to Open Doors, to Education with Purpose, to Glover, mentoring, to Community Passageways, because they are helping us. That's the proof is in the pudding, So, and I know it's going to take time, Tony, that's really the issue. We have, a history of untrust between, non-BIPOC funders and us in the communities, but we have to be resilient. We have to be optimistic, and we just have to, organize, strategize, and mobilize. I'm sure a lot of our people know where that, it comes from. For us as people, if we continue to do that, we can explain why unrestricted funding is more helpful to society than not.
All right. And I got to put a time limit on you, but I got to give you an opportunity for final words here. Just whatever you would like to say to our guests.
Well, I just want to say thank you so much on behalf of our organization and our Pacific Islander community. And thank you so much, Rainier Avenue Radio and you, Tony, to give us this to give us this platform and to highlight what we're trying to do in the community, and just to be a support, both spiritually and just as best you can. And so, and we want to support you, and we will continue to support you as well. And it's great to meet you. And again, we just hope and pray that everyone understands the importance of education and how it can level the playing field for all of our communities. And we look forward to just sharing more of our services and what we do, and to just link arms and do what we can and get through this pandemic together.
All right. Well, before we go to break, don't go, Naomi, because I'm going to be talking to you. So what I normally do here is I talk about what we've got going on before I go into the break. But I just want to personally make sure that, so it's just easier for me to say it to you. I got Dom coming up next from Community Passageways. We're going to talk about Community Passageways. But tomorrow, right here at Rainier Avenue Radio at 810 23rd Avenue, we're having a fundraiser fish fry. So hey, if anybody wants to come down, and believe me, it's going to be the bomb. You'll get, it's catfish and a couple of sides. So come on down from.
Yes, go on down, you guys. Let's go. Go have some. Don't eat too much. I don't know if we should tell the Samoans.
Come on down and get
all the fish.
And as we've been doing every Saturday from 11 to 3, we give away free food. I'm talking about we give away steak, we give away produce, we give away dairy. So that's still going on tomorrow too. So you can come down, you can still get the free food. And anybody so inclined who wants to come down and donate to us through our Fish Fry fundraiser, come get you some food.
Definitely. Send our donation, brother.
And high school sports are starting up again. I'm sure you can attest to the value of being able to be around your teammates and what that's about. So tonight we'll be broadcasting live from the Southeast Athletic Complex at Rainier Beach. Eastside Catholic will be taking on the Rainier Beach Vikings at 7 o'clock. Tonight we'll be broadcasting live. Tomorrow at 3 o'clock we'll have Garfield versus Seattle Prep, and then Nathan Hale versus Franklin. So Naomi, if you want to watch some high school sports,
definitely
lock it in.
My husband's a Viking, so he's already rooting.
And then if you're again so inclined, come get you some food tomorrow down here too. Naomi, it's been great talking to you. Congratulations on everything that you've done prior to what you're doing now, and then to have you bring this back and share yourself with our community. Thank you again for your sincerity and your authenticity. We appreciate you.
Appreciate you, Brother Tony. Thank you. I'll see you soon.
We'll be back to talk with Dominique Davis from Community Passages right after this.
You are listening to Rainier Avenue Radio.world. Don't forget to log on www.rainieravenue.world.
How would COVID vaccines work in your body? Here are 3 things to know. Number 1, a vaccine is basically a training session for the immune system. Vaccines teach the immune system to look for the key features of a virus. So when a virus does show up, it's ready to fight it off. Number 2, a vaccine gives your body a plan to recognize the virus. Then your immune system starts preparing by making antibodies, or fighter cells, that stay in your blood as protection in case the virus tries to invade. What this means is you get immunity against the disease without having to get sick first. Number 3, when enough people's bodies know how to fight off a virus, it has nowhere to go. That slows the spread. When people get a vaccine, we're able to stop the spread quicker and get closer to ending the pandemic. To learn more, go to covidvaccinewa.org. A message from the state of Washington.
You're listening to Rainier Avenue Radio.world. I'm Granville Emerson along with my partner, Ronald Pepe Team. And we host the show Lidline Sports right here on Rainier Avenue Radio.world, where we talk about football, basketball, local sports, national sports, Seahawks, UW, Seattle U Redhawks, Garfield Bulldogs, all that and more right here on Midline Sports on Rainier Avenue Radio.world.
Lock in fresh juice with the newest hip hop and R&B.
Every Wednesday night from 9 to 11 p.m.
on Rainier Avenue Radio. You know we got the dopest artists rocking with us every single week. It's myself, D-Money,
Taylor Hart,
and Pint Size Patron. This is Fresh Juice every Wednesday. It's Trilltopia.
Atlantic Street Center has been serving the children, youth, and families of the Seattle King County area since 1910. We partner with families and communities to raise healthy, successful children and youth through services including counseling, early learning, youth development, domestic violence, and education support for school-aged children. Committed to serving the African American community, Atlantic Street Center provides services and support for all marginalized people. Learn more at AtlanticStreetCenter.org.
You're listening to Rainier Avenue Radio.world.
Welcome back to Rainier Avenue Radio.world. Or as the promo says earlier, .world. Big preacher. Who does a show, by the way, called Gospel Rap Nation, which is a phenomenal show. He plays gospel rap. So check that out, Gospel Rap Nation with Big Preacher. We are waiting. Sometimes things happen, and for Dominique to show up with Community Passageways. And so what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to bring Naomi back, if that's cool. Naomi, I mean, because I could talk about some other stuff, but I'd rather talk to Naomi.
Okay. Hey, I'm on FaceTime with Brother Dom. Say hi, bro.
What's up, Dom? Where you at, man?
Yeah, I told you we're fam. He had a meeting. He doesn't have the link. Here.
Oh yeah, I do. Wait. It says you can find out more information by visiting.
No, scroll down here. I'll forward it to you. It's a StreamYard. We are live people, huh?
Yes, we are. But this is how we make it happen in the community.
Okay, so bro, here. Okay, I'm trying to
text me the link.
Okay.
And I'll jump on.
Okay, I'm gonna put my hand down so I can do that. Okay, bye. Okay, love you. Bye. Love you.
Okay, well.
Sorry, people. Sorry, everyone.
You know Dominique is. Did you text him the link already?
I just texted him. I'm doing it right now. He had a meeting. He ran to. Dom is so amazing. Gosh, do you see his work? By the way.
Oh yeah.
He's done so many amazing. Yeah, I'm forwarding it to him now.
Okay.
He's done so many film-based messages.
And so we were having a little chat offline. I don't know if this is really going to happen or not. But for everyone who's listening out there right now, we are about to bring you the vocal stylings of Naomi.
Well,
I'm not putting you on blast.
Babe, do you have a no? I was singing to my reggae playlist earlier, but now they're all.
Well, again, while we're waiting for Dom to come,
He's coming. Yes.
Okay, and thank you for doing that. This gives us a little more time to talk. As soon as we get started, he'll probably jump on. But how long has Education with Purpose Foundation for Pacific Islanders been in existence?
Sure, we started in 2011. Let's see. I stepped away from basketball in 2006. So I took some time, I went to go get my degree, my business degree. And then my husband found me. So I spent that time between graduating and retiring from the WNBA so 2011 is when we started. And we pretty much just funded it on our own, myself and my husband. But then in 2014, because again, I was learning as I went. This wasn't something that I expected and planned to do after playing basketball. But when I realized coming back and seeing that not much was changing in the school systems for our Pacific Islander students and BIPOC youth, that's when I realized we got to do something. So me and my husband just right away started up the organization. Oh, and Coach is here. And then, we've been here since 2011. And then we got our 501c3 status. That's what I was getting at. I didn't know about all of this stuff in 2014. So, and here we are still. And my brother Dom's here. So that's good.
I'm going to bring Dominique on. What's up, Neek? And Naomi, you can hang out, right? You can hang out with us.
Sure.
If you're unfamiliar with Community Passageways and Dominique Davis, you're going to find out today the work that they do, the work that he's done. Dom, and good seeing you. To start off with, how you been?
Man, good seeing you too, brothers. It's been a minute. Yeah, me and Tony B got a history together. We used to rock a little bit back in the day, kick it a little bit, hang out. It's good to see you, brother. It's been a while, man. I'm doing wonderful. I just got back from vacation, so today's my first day back, and it's been wild and crazy, but I'm grinding it out. So I apologize for jumping on a little late.
Okay, we got you here. And the thing about it is, man, people are always busy doing work. That's part of the deal. Well, for anyone who may be unfamiliar with Community Passageways, can you tell us about Community Passageways, who the organization is, and what you do? We'll start with that.
Yeah, man. I'm gonna try to give myself a time limit here because I can go on and on about.
I want you to talk. This is your time, bro.
All right, brother. All right. First of all, mostly everybody calls me Coach Dom. My name is Dominique Davis. Call me Coach because I coached in the community for 25 years or so. And I grew up in this community my whole life. So I have a passion for what happens to my community, in my community. As I started doing this community work and seeing how the criminal justice system has so negatively affected our communities of color, especially our Black community, South Seattle, CD, West Seattle type areas, and seeing the young people, not just seeing my peers go through the system and fall victim to the criminal justice system, but also see the young people that I've coached and mentored and kind of worked with throughout the years go fall into the same traps that me and my peers fell in. So I started doing this work because through coaching, basically just caring about kids, caring about my community, caring about the people that I love and watching them just fall into the same traps. And I said, somebody has to do something about the fact that our young people are being criminalized at this high level that they've been criminalized at. And so I started this, I got asked to come to the table back in 2010, actually, to help come up with a program. Got asked by Dan Saddleberg and his team. My dad is Doug Wheeler Sr. and some of his peers had got called to the table, and he gave me a call and said, hey, I know the work you've been doing in the community with coaching and everything. We want you in this meeting. And so literally I was just a few years out of the streets at that time. I was out in the streets doing my thing and illegal activities in the streets. And I had just got out the streets and started changing my life and came to the table. And that was the beginning process of me getting into this work in a very structured way, in a very organized way to the nonprofit world. And so we started a program called the Choose 180 program back in 2011. This was the first time we launched it. And I was one of the co-founders and the director of it. Well, after doing that work for about 6 years or so, 5.5 years or so, we were diverting misdemeanors out of the juvenile courts for juveniles. So it was a misdemeanor diversion program for kids that, got caught shoplifting or got caught with a dime bag or got in a fight at school or something like that, and they get charged, whatever. And we would have them go through a workshop, and we had a deal with the prosecutor's office where they would get their charges diverted. Well, as I started learning more and more about the court system, I was seeing kids from my community, especially kids from our area, the CD South End, West Seattle areas, in those courtrooms, in those lobbies, dealing with felony charges. And so I was like, watching the grandmas that are raising their kids, aunties raising kids, single moms, single dads that's in there. And they were just victims to the criminal justice system. It was like, once you committed a felony, it was a wash. You committed a felony, you're going to be charged, prosecuted, whatever's going to happen is going to happen. There was really no diversions. There was really no opportunities for a second chance. And so I've seen parents crying, grandmas crying, people asking for help. And I just started being in those courtrooms and in those lobbies, started helping people because I was there for misdemeanors. Sometimes for some of the young people that didn't make it to the workshop, I would be there to meet them and try to say, hey, you need to come to this workshop. And so when I started seeing this, I just started doing the work on my own, like trying to help them navigate the system and help them out. And I was like, you know what? There needs to be an organization that can address doing felony diversion. And I was like, then I started doing research, and I had some Seattle U students that was volunteering at the program I was running, and they couldn't. I was like, let's find somebody that does felony diversion. So they were doing this nationwide search back in 2011 or so, 2012, 2013, 2014, somewhere around there. We were like, couldn't really find it. I was like, does it even exist? Felony diversion. So then I started putting a proposal together and started pushing for it to happen. And next thing I know, to make a long story a little bit shorter, is we were able to get some people to buy in. Systems wouldn't buy in. The prosecutors, the judges, nobody was really buying. Even defense attorneys were like, well, that's a long shot, right? And they were like, felony diversion doesn't exist. So I had some prosecutors tell me, hey, that world doesn't exist for us right now. When you see us doing these misdemeanors, let's keep doing this. Let's get more comfortable. And then I'm like, man, no, that if we were able to create that world, we can create the world for felony diversion. And here we are now. We created the world for felony diversion. We've been doing felony diversion at Community Passageways. I had to start a new organization, Community Passageways, that we started and launched in 2017. I was actually doing the work in 2016, but we became an official 501c3 in 2017. We focus on felonies, high-end felonies, felony criminal offenses. We don't do sex offenses, but we do, everything else, right? And it's not about a get out of jail ticket free, a ticket to get out of jail free. We want to help young people go on a better track. So when you got a young person that's facing, 2 or 3 felonies at 16 years old and been not in school for a year or so and been in the streets and couch surfing and hustling and surviving and really don't have no future for themselves, no promise for themselves, isn't thinking about their future, just thinking about making it day to day and surviving, which I understand. I was out here in them days. And so when you got those kids need some help. Those kids need somebody to say, man, I got you. I had to look back on what I knew I needed and my peers needed back then. We just need somebody to say, bro, we're going to make sure you eat. We're going to make sure you got clothes on your back. Make sure you got a roof over your head. We're going to give you guidance and leadership, bro. And we're going to open doors for you. And we're going to walk you through the doors and we're going to help you navigate that. So that's what Community Passageways started doing. The first kid that I got was 15 years old, facing 2 or 3 felonies, looking at prison time. We were able to work with him, get him back in school. He had been kicked out and expelled out of his school district. We were able to go to I went to the superintendent's office, talked to the superintendent's office, talked to them, pushed them, went back and forth there for a couple of weeks, finally got them to let him back in school. He goes back in school. I said, look, little bro, I'm going to pay you a stipend to go to school. He was like, what? You going to pay me to go to school? I said, yeah, man, I'm going to pay you a stipend to go to school, man. I said, all you got to do is get through the doors, man. Go to school. Just go through get into the doors of the school this whole week. If you go every day into the school this whole week, I'm going to give you $100. He was like, what? For real? Yeah, bro. Just get to the school every day for the whole week. So he went to school every day that whole week. He went to first period, second period, and he leave. He go to first period and he leave. But he went through the whole week. I started talking to the counselors. I made relationships with the teachers. And so I was able to check in on him and see and find out. And he was like, yeah, he came, but he was only here for 2 periods. All right, cool. I would call him, hey, bro, good job. You made it to school for 2 periods. I'm proud of you. At the end of the week, I gave him his $100. I said, now next week, I need you to go to school 3 classes a day, maybe even 4. I'm going to give you another 100. What? For real? So we did that process. A quarter in, this kid was in school every day, 6 classes, kicking butt. Grades started going up. I said, I'm going to give you a few more dollars. Every grade that goes up, you get $25. He's like, man, he was just happy. I said, now you've been out here stealing cars, bro? And you ain't got, let's get you a driver's license. I'm going to pay for you to go to driver's ed. Got him in the driver's ed. Got his permit, right? I said, man, we got to get you a job, man. What kind of career do you want? I don't want you to just get a job. I want you to do what you want. What do you want to be, man? He said, well, I got clippers. I cut my own hair. I cut my friend's hair. I want to be a barber. Let's get you in barber school. Let's find you a barber school. Pay for him to go to barber school. Now he's in barber school. He got his permit. What I'm saying is he has support and resources. And while we're doing all this, I'm sending reports to the prosecutor and saying, look, man, we don't need to lock this kid up. Look what he's doing. He's doing some incredible work. All he needed was some support. He's back home. He's in school. And the next thing I know, this kid was winning awards at school for comeback student of the year, attendance for the quarter, best attendance of the quarter. Oh, he was doing some. Next thing you know, he's on advisory committees at the school district, telling the superintendent's office how to keep kids engaged in school. But I got all charges dropped and dismissed and not on his record because we were able to do that. Paying him the little money stipends, a few dollars here and there, giving him support, putting him in a good position, and then saying, system, don't lock him up. Give him to us. We know what's best for him. We got him. He don't need to go to prison. That ain't going to work. The prison industrial complex does not change the white supremacist institutionalism that exists in our community. It ain't going to stop us from poverty. It ain't going to stop us from miseducation. It ain't going to stop us from being unemployable. I want you to understand that was the first kid that came through our system, through the Community Passageways program. And I repeated that process over and over again. And that process has expanded and grown where we're doing this with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of youth and young adults up to 27 years old. We've been affecting the adult system and the juvenile system by giving people the support they need. To this day, me and that kid are still close and still cool. I still chop it up with this young man on a regular basis. He has a barbershop now. You know what I'm saying? He's a business owner now. He went from being a person that would end up in prison to being a business owner just by somebody coming in and said, I believe in you. He won Spirit Youth of the Year award 2 years later because I got him on a government advisory committee for the government, for the governor. And he was flying back and forth to DC and Maryland and being on panels. And he won Spirit Youth of the Award. That's the highest award you can get for a teenager in the state of Washington when he was supposed to be in prison. This is what we do at Community Passageways. Now we're 350 plus years of prison and jail time taken off the table for youth and young adults in our community. 350 plus years in 4 years. We just repeated this process, bro.
And this is my guest, Neek. Dominique Davis. Yeah, let's do that. Let's give him a round of applause. My man. Wow. Let's talk, Dominique, about this time last year with the work that you do, which is obviously very hands-on, working with critical population. Where were you at last year when this pandemic hit? What were you thinking? What were your thoughts? What was going on? How was this impacting the folks that you serve?
I got a perfect example for that. We right now, Community Passageways is not just a felony diversion program. We got like 10 other programs under our banner right now. And one of the new programs we started at the very beginning of 2020 was called the Deep Dive Program. And it's called the Deep Dive Program for a reason. But we had just launched this program, and we have went out into the community, went out and recruited, grabbed these kids out the street. These are some of the most they want to say the most gun violence impacted young people in South King County. These are young people that were on a list of the prosecutor's office to be more likely to shoot or be shot in a short period of time because of their algorithms that they developed in their shots fired program that they had to study for 4 or 5 years on. We went out and started knocking on doors. We went out and started making phone calls, and we grabbed these kids because we were like, we ain't gonna just sit back and not do nothing about this list and just wait for something to happen to them. We're gonna go out and be proactive. That was the program we started right before the COVID hit. It took us a couple of months to get the young people to buy in to coming into the same room with each other because there was a lot of ops. There was a lot of rivals. And so some of these kids had even shot at each other before. So we were able to get them into the same room after a couple of months. And then in the first meeting that we were in person, the program was built around us meeting in person every 5 days a week. Going through curriculum, going through workshops, teaching them all kind of financial literacy, ownership, business, property, real estate, you know what I'm saying, about the continent of Africa, great kings and queens, who you are, where you come from, the effects of social media, blah, 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 blah. We had this whole deep curriculum that we got. And so we started, it was supposed to all be face-to-face right before COVID hit. So we got them to finally come into the same space. Some of them had bulletproof vests, some of them had guns on them, whatever. We knew that was going to happen. But we were meeting face-to-face, bro, doing these circles and having conversations and going deep, right? And they started realizing, I got more in common with this dude than I thought. Like, why? And it like you would literally hear comments like, I don't even know why we've been beefing with you guys. You guys kind of remind me of my other homies, right? By 3 or 4 days in, we were able to get some guys to shake hands, get truces. And by Friday that week, they were laughing with each other and having a good time around each other. Here's the thing. We went into a few weeks later, COVID hits. And now we're saying, man, we got these guys on a good track. What are we going to do? We had to literally shift gears immediately. I started getting tablets. I started going out asking people to donate tablets for us to get these guys tablets because a lot of them we had just got back in school. Some of them we had to get devices for them to be able to communicate with us so we could do our workshops and do our curriculum on. So we made sure that everybody had. Then we had to get hot spots for cats, all that kind of stuff. We're paying these cats stipends at the same time, getting them plugged in to make sure, hey, look, once you're done with us, we don't want you leaving a meeting with us and having to go out here and hit a lick to eat or a lick to have somewhere to stay. We're going to pay you a stipend to make sure you got resources in your pocket so we can get your mind right. Because you can't be out here homeless and hungry and then trying to get your mind right? Because you're still in survival mode. Help us. We're going to work with you. We're going to pay you some good stipends, and we pay them very well to go through this process. So now COVID hits. Now we got to figure out how do we communicate with these guys. So we had to turn everything to online. But as we turned everything to online, it shifted. We still don't even know what COVID is really about. We're still learning all the ins and outs of COVID, but we just know that this big mandate got hit on us and we can't meet in person. Things are closing down. Schools are shutting down. Athletic programs are shutting down. Now there's more kids that ain't playing sports or going to school, getting recruited into the gangs. More violence starts happening. We're in the midst of all this with this core of heavy hitters. The cats that's been out here really putting work in. We got to keep them engaged. So me and my team had to mask up, glove up. We had to be in the streets. The kids were still in the streets. So we had to still be in the streets. We had to go do one-on-ones, social distancing, house visits, social distancing, bring 2 or 3 together and meet in parking lots and at parks. But we navigated all that, man, and then put our stuff online. And now our online workshops, our online curriculums, all that stuff has been working, man. We were able, out of the 24, 25 kids, at least 12 or 13 of them got full-time jobs, if not more. I'm just throwing numbers out because I know at least 12 or 13 of them got full-time jobs now. We've gotten at least 6 or 7 of them their own apartments and working on the rest, getting more apartments. We're bringing in another cohort, part 2 of a whole nother group of heavy hitters that got referred to us. Some from the prosecutor's office, some from the streets. And now we're working with them. We're still working with the other group, getting the rest of them all settled in. We fought cases for them. A lot of them had current cases. from federal cases to state cases. We were able to resolve a bunch of their cases, bro. None of them went back to jail but one. Well, one went back to jail for short stints of probation violation. One got caught up, on a probation violation, and they gave him a longer term in the feds. But these kids, 2 of them got shot. One got shot in the leg, one got shot in the face, bro. But at the end of the day, they're both alive. Like, so the statistics and numbers were all of them were a statistic. All of them were supposed to be shot or shoot somebody. I mean, I could go on and on about that, but we had to adjust because of COVID. Then we had to figure out how we're going to navigate working with these young people and their families during COVID. So we had to go out and get more resources to be able to help with rental assistance for their girlfriends that they're living with, or for their mamas, single moms that they're living with, or even for their friends and their homies who we also ended up working with and their families. Rental assistance, food assistance, utility assistance. We started going out and pulling some funding together to help people stay in their homes, help people have some food, help people, keep their utilities and lights on. Because how can we expect to heal the community if we're out here in survival mode, just trying to figure out what we're going to do the next day? So we had to, man, COVID hit us really hard, man. It made us grind even harder. It didn't slow down our work. It sped our work up. And then all these young people that were getting pulled off the porch into the streets because there's no school or sports, then we had to start trying to navigate, and we're still working on navigating that even more to try to get to them too. So we got to get to the heavy hitters and the leaders, and then develop them into leaders in a positive way to go back in the streets and pull their homies in. And that's what they've been doing, pulling their homeboys. My cousin want to be in the group. My friend my homie my brother want to be in the group. And so COVID was a negative, and it still is a negative. But bro, it really opened up some doors for us to really get even more engaged. It's called deep dive because we're in these kids' lives every single day. COVID or no COVID, we have to be in their lives every single day to help save as many lives as we can, man.
Dom, that is what they call understanding that when there are no longer grapes on the vine, you have raisins.
Come on.
And bro, we are almost out of time, but I wanted to give you that entire platform to share the work that you do, my friend, and the critical work that you do. Really, really quickly here, because you talked about it. We've talked about it the whole time about the need for funding, and what everyone has said is unrestricted funding, and the sources and the resources that you use are not something that would be typically found in a grant. So just really quickly, and that's why I have all the guests, how important was that funding, and is that funding in terms of you being able to use it the way you see fit?
Bro, unrestricted funding is everything. I want you to, and I want the audience to understand, when we are able to operate with unrestricted funds, we are able to form our program and form answers to the community to where the community's needs are. If we have a bunch of grants with a bunch of line items that can only be spent in one direction and in one space, that's one of my community ambassadors, in one space, then it locks us and handcuffs us, right? Because when I need to hire 3 more OGs, because don't get it twisted, I hire my OGs from the communities because those are the experts in the communities to get the young cats out of the streets. If I want to hire 3 or 4 more OGs, but I don't have enough money in this grant to do that, or enough money on a line item for the staff on the grant, I have to have unrestricted money to go get these 3 or 4 more OGs, make sure they get the training they need, and put them out here in the community to go save some more lives. I can move like that automatically. I don't have to sit back and wait, right? And then at the same time, sometimes I need to pay for a laptop for a kid to go to college with. Sometimes I got to pay for a cell phone bill, or 2 or 3 or 4 cell phone bills, so these kids' phones are on and they're not working off of Wi-Fi, because the job interview we just sent them to and got them the job interview, the people need to be able to contact them, let them know whether they got the job or not, or set them up for the second interview. We got to do that kind of stuff, bro. I need to be able to have unrestricted money to give kid gas, to get to the meetings that we have, or get to the interview, or get to the apartment complex to go fill out the application, or go to the meeting for the housing organization we plugged you in with. I need to give you all kinds of things. There's so many things that we do, bro. We give gift cards out to the families we work with. We need to have unrestricted money to do all that, man, because we need to be able to move to the needs. We can't move to the needs if we don't have unrestricted money, if our hands are tied.
And really quickly here, bro, again, I hate to cut you short, but I got to give you the opportunity for final words. Anything you want to say to our audience before we go?
Yeah, Community Passageways, along with a number of other organizations, Creative Justice, African Town Land Trust, Freedom Project. Like, there's a whole bunch of organizations out here doing great work. Please Look into your local organizations and finance those local organizations. You don't always have to look at some national platform, all those big behemoth organizations that already have millions and millions of dollars. If you want to make yourself feel good and donate to something, look for the small local organizations that's out here every day with their sleeves up, getting their hands dirty, making it happen.
All right, Dom. And before, man, first of all, man, good catching up with you, bro. And having this platform to be able to share what you do with everybody firsthand. I appreciate you. So again, earlier in the show, if you missed it when we started this off, we had a conversation, and Dom, I know that you're familiar with most of these people, with Naomi Mulatalo-Pele Tegaloa from Education with Purpose Foundation of Pacific Islanders. Obviously, she called you up and said, "Hey, Dom, man, they're waiting for you." Ginger Kwan, Executive Director of Open Doors for Multicultural Families, and then also Mike Jones from the Glover EmpowerMentoring Gym organization, and again, my guest Dominique Davis from Community Passageways. We're really overtime, and so Dom, I'm going to invite you too. You know how this works, man. When you're doing stuff. So tomorrow, during Saturday from 11 to 3, we give away free food that we don't ask any questions. Come get what you want, but we're having a fish fry tomorrow from 1 to 5 as a fundraiser. I'm talking to you, Don, but I'm talking to everybody. But since you're on, I'm inviting you. But we're having a fish fry where you can come and get catfish and a couple sides, and you're talking about it benefits God Is, which is the organization that really handles, giving out the food, and Rainier Avenue Radio. So if you put the word out there, anybody looking for a fish fry tomorrow, 810 23rd Avenue between 1 and 5. Right here in the Central District, right on 23rd, just a block or so north of Cherry Street. And Dom, I know you dig this too. High school sports is back. We're going to be broadcasting the Eastside Catholic Rainier Beach game tonight at 7 o'clock. That's going to be a big one. So tune in at 7 o'clock. Folks can't go to the games, but we're bringing these games to our community. Then tomorrow we're going to have Garfield versus Seattle Prep at 3. 6 o'clock we'll have Nathan Hale versus Franklin. And Nick, I know I don't have to tell you how important it is for these kids to be able to get together and get back on the field and participate in team sports and hook up with their coaches.
Come on.
So all right, Neek, if I don't see you again, man, it's soon. I know you're out there doing the work. Much continued success to you, and keep doing the work that you do, bro.
Thank you, brother. Much love to you.
That's it. That's all the time that I have. That's going to do it for the kid. It's me, Tony B. You've been listening to the impacts of the coronavirus on South Seattle and surrounding communities. This whole show was about organizations that receive funding from the Seattle Foundation. $9.9 million recently. I think $60 million overall went out. And as you can see, it's not an easy process. And folks in the community know what they're doing. Yes, there may be occasions, like in any situation, but big props to Seattle Foundation. Like I said, I was a critic at the beginning, and so I've seen the end results. And so when that happens, let's shine a light on it. Big props to Seattle Foundation and the 239 organizations that they supported with this $9.9 million. We only showed you 4 of them today. That's what we do on Rainier Avenue Radio. And yes, we were a recipient of funding from the Seattle Foundation as well. And despite my griping about the process. And so, hey, you know what? And so let's get this out there. That's how we get out. Okay, until next time, remember, whether you believe you can or whether you believe you can't, you are probably right. I'm out. Peace. See you tonight at the football game, Eastside Catholic versus Beach on Rainier Avenue Radio.World.